So yeah, I think we can get started now. I don't want to delay. It looks like a lot of people who RSVP'd and didn't RSVP are here. So I'm happy to get started if you guys are ready.
Alrighty.
Sounds good. All right. So again, it's wonderful to have you all here, panelists and attendees alike. Yeah, so today we have three panelists joining us, industry pioneers and really prolific authors. And the first panelist we have up today would be Selkie Myth, the author of Beneath the Dragon Eye Moons, and who last I was able to at least confirm from an AMA at book 8 was at 1 million words plus strong. So you're on book 11 now, right? Or is that wrong?
Royal Road has told me I'm over 1.5 million words, so I'm probably approaching 2 million. Actually, let me see how many words are in Royal Road right now. Because, like, unfortunately, with the way I do things, I have no idea what my actual word count is.
1.623.
Yeah, 1.6 million. So I'm probably 1.75 or so. In actual, maybe not quite that much, probably just 1.7 total words. So, all less than 2 million.
And you've been writing for how long? About 3-4 years?
A little more than 3 years now. Yeah, Dragon Eye Moons was my first project, and it launched actually almost exactly 3 years ago.
Yeah,
just a hair longer than 3 years ago I launched.
And what has that been? So were you an author before of any kind?
I was a coder. I wrote programs for whoever would hire me. I would write Excel scripts to make their lives much easier. Which, I have a real head for numbers and programming and that sort of thing, which made designing the litRPG pretty easy because I had all the head for numbers already in place to, make it, put it all together.
Right.
But no, I basically said, I hate everything I'm reading. I'm going to write something better. It started off as, pure spite.
Yeah. That's actually a common theme with a previous panelist we've had on Inadvisably Compelled, who basically said something along the lines of, along that same line where he was, reading and, he was like, I'm gonna write something, better. And honestly, like you guys have been successful enough, I feel like where that's been a valid valid reason. So I'm sure the community is of fans and readers are glad that you started in the first place. Has there been, so other than the, your background with numbers and accounting, making it easy for you to transition into the RPG space, has there been other life experiences that, like, have you always wanted to be an author? I know you've said you've been a prolific reader for a long time. Has there been, like, has being an author been kind of like the goal for you, or have...
Nope. I basically, I loved reading growing up and, spent way too many hours reading. But, I knew even from, a very young age that being an author wasn't, really a solid career goal of any sort. I was much more mathematically inclined. And so it just never really occurred to me, as I said, until I got, real fed up. And I was like, okay, well, COVID hit, I got laid off. Why not try this writing thing while I'm looking for a new, and this writing thing got a little big.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, I just sort of almost stumbled into it in a way, just like, okay, I'm going to do it. At the same time, I didn't, I prepared myself for success. I studied what everyone else was doing. I studied what what people did, what made stories, that people liked, what did they not like, what was good about stories, what was bad about those good stories, what was bad about the bad stories, what was, how did people monetize, how did people advertise, how did people do all this. And so I came in, frankly, radically overprepared, because one of the things I didn't study, I was like, well, of course people have a backlog. Of course people, do some planning ahead of time. Of course, not realizing that most people are just like chapter 1, type, enter. Right. So I actually came in a lot more planned and prepared than most people. Prepared for success, but not planning on it. But putting myself in a position where if it caught, it would do very well. And it did catch.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you mind going a little bit more into, like, for example, you said, what do the books, good books do well that make it good, and then what do the bad books do that make it bad?
So a lot of it was in system design, where I said, what part of these systems makes sense? What part of it is resonating with people? What part of it just annoys the heck out of me? So one of the things that was, a lot more popular back then, and I haven't necessarily been as up to date on stuff, as the endless skill lists. I was just like, no, these endless skill lists are just not fun. All of these characters can do absolutely everything. There's no tension or thought behind it. And there was literally, some books had 4,000 word skill descriptions and panel descriptions. And I was like, okay, one of my rules is limited skill slots. You can't have everything. You have to pick and choose. And on the same vein, I was like, I'm not doing the endless merging where all the skills can, just keep merging into each other forevermore to create this super uber skill. No, you have to have, I had to define rules behind it, but the rules are part of the fun, because it's like, when people now actively design characters with full stat sheets because they can only have so many options. Otherwise, everyone would just be like, yes, every skill that has ever been made is going on the skill sheet. So that was one of the ones where it's just like, make limits, make rules, impose limitations.
Yeah. And I feel like, I read Beneath the Eye, Dragon Eye Moon's book 1 in preparation. I really enjoyed it. And I think that's one thing that I did notice was that it's a character-driven story. It's very raw. You don't pull any punches, which I appreciate. And yeah, it's like a really fast, punchy pace. And I did notice that, so for example, in your world, there's based on elements, but people have 8 skill slots, right, per class, and they have three classes that they unlock as they level up, right? That was a very unique RPG system that I haven't really seen. And yeah, I certainly feel like your level of preparation, and I feel like you had a lot of life experience to pull from to make your transition into being an author successful. And they say when success is when luck and opportunity make preparation. And I feel like preparation was definitely one, but though not the only strength of yours. So yeah, congratulations on all the success that you found. And I wonder if we can transition into what has, like, so for those that don't know, Selkie has recently started a small publishing house called Mango Media. And he has actually published with great success some of RavensDagger's books on Kindle. And so you, as somebody who's really, understands the importance and value of preparation and has kind of like had to figure it all out by yourself. You mentioned in your AMA, when you first started, you didn't even know where to find, the Amazon Kindle publishing.
Yeah.
Is that right? So yeah. What is this whole journey, like this whirlwind journey of finding, writing 11 books, writing almost 2 million words in the past 3 years, going from not knowing where the, Amazon Kindle publishing page is to, starting your own publisher. And then what have you learned, and what are these like skills that you're bringing to the, to champion for these indie authors and that you're signing as indie author yourself?
So there's way too many things I've learned to, try to even start to list them all without, taking up the entire panel time and, and all that. Some of the things I know is, I've studied, the things you need to study. What do covers need to look like to be successful? How do you market? Where do you market? What are the critical aspects that make a story successful outside of the actual writing itself? And you apply all that, and then at a certain point it's a roll of the dice, where for example, Raven, if I can use your stories for Dead Tired, I set everything up that I believe properly, roll the dice, and ding ding ding, 3 7s, thousands and thousands of sales in the first month, huge hit. Lever Action, and I did the same the same stuff, did the same prep work, and did not perform quite as well. Still got the #1 release tag, which I was happy about, but not quite the same performance. So, there is a lot of preparation you can do to, give it the opportunity to succeed. And then at the same, you're always rolling the dice at the end of the day, though, to see, okay, will this actually hit or not?
Right. You can never completely eliminate that, everything is a gamble kind of at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like, so I've also noticed your Discord community has been one of the strongest, most active, friendly, and like kind of like a safe space for people to express various opinions and just be themselves. How did that, like, did you, was that also a result of, like consciously planning, like, okay, this is the kind of Discord community I want, this is what I'm going to do? For example, I know you have also a thriving author community on your own Discord channel, which is not something you see on other people's Discords.
So part of it, I've noticed that the tone of stories being written is reflected in both the readers and the community. You're saying, oh, my Discord is very friendly. I write a very friendly character. You look at Raven's Discord and, the friendliness level is, 5 times what my Discord has, because he just writes such happy, upbeat stories that, the people that read it and like it and enjoy it and sign up and, enter the Patreon are sort of, they sort of vibe with that. So the story helps set it. Then there's also tone at the top, the tone that the person running the Discord can really set the whole tone for the entire place. And I've sort of set, I've tried to set sort of a velvet fist, philosophy of, guys, I'm going to be really nice, but if you make me be mean, I'm going to be really mean. And I've had absolutely no trouble, with people that, there's obvious troublemakers and, you just grab them, you throw them out. And then there's people that they're not the obvious troublemakers, but there's always trouble around them. And like, on one hand, it can feel really unfair. On the other hand, I also grab those people and I throw them out because, frankly, the minor reputational hit of Selkie unfairly bans people goes hand in hand with the reputation of the Discord. It's like, okay, I get rid of the troublemakers. There's not a lot of trouble. And, you've probably seen the rules of the Discord. Rule 5 is my big one. Don't be the reason that I have to make more rules. And then, of course, there's rule 6, 7, 8, and 9, which all have stories behind them.
I see. So they weren't rules when you first started?
They weren't rules when I started, and I had to make them later on. Because, again, of those same troublemakers. And everyone who's made me make a new rule has a role, the reason for a new rule.
Right.
And when it's like, okay, you know what? You're the reason for 2 new rules, troublemaker.
I find that so interesting because, Discord communities kind of go hand in hand. So with royalroad.com, for example, and Royal Road has been a like a pillar and like a oasis / watering hole for these indie authors, first-time authors to come and develop a following and really just become this sort of new age entrepreneurs. And I feel like, those are the panelists that we had on last year and this year as well, and hopefully in the future as well, like where, authors, they aren't necessarily like the traditional kind, although they have their own merits, right? But these new age authors that kind of grow up on and with Royal Road and Scribble Hub and, spacebattles.net, or, these all these small blog turned platforms, they have had to kind of wear multiple hats. And in terms of becoming community, what in the corporate world some might call community managers, and they have to become their own marketers and own designers. I'm sure you guys know better than I what you all have to do. Editors, proofreaders, translators. I think for some, was it Raven? It might be that you translate your own.
Yeah. I'm French, so I did the French translations. I had quite a bit of help from my community, however.
Yeah. So, and I feel like that's really impressive and maybe, a necessity, would you say, for an author in this age to kind of wear multiple hats as a community manager, Selkie? Or do you think like that kind of this like holistic approach has helped your writing career take off and, help market your works, or?
No, so the community management is frankly a sidetrack. It has helped, yes, but there are so many authors out there who focus a little more on the writing and less on the marketing and still do fantastically well. I find the community management is more helpful for building and keeping a strong, loyal fan base. But take a look at the biggest name in the genre, Shirtaloon. He has a Discord, but he's in it a little bit. He doesn't seem to be in it a ton, but he doesn't seem to have the same level of interaction. And yet he is the biggest name in the genre. He is the one that everyone refers to. He's the one that everyone looks to and compares themselves against. So you can absolutely be successful without the interaction. Azareth Healer's Discord, for example. Rhaegar's very rarely in it. The community is still thriving because of a dozen other different reasons. Communities can be absolutely extremely successful with barely the presence of the author. And I even know a couple of Discords that are just entirely, hi Molly, are entirely fan-made, that no author involvement, and still do very well. So no, it's not a critical skill. It's not even super important, but it is nice. And, obviously, I consider it part of my success, formula, but it's not a needed skill. At the same time, you can also just easily ask someone else, hey, you seem like a solid person. Can you want to manage the Discord? And, a happy member of the community probably will say yes. And, Pirate Abba, for example, is almost entirely hands-off, handed the reins to, other people to, manage. And they might have one of the biggest Discords in the whole community. So, I'd say if you don't have the skill and you're not interested in it, knowing to give it to someone else, it's, probably what you have to do with it.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great perspective. And I agree. Do you think that it's I guess this is a twofold question. And do you think you get like positive not reinforcement, but like positive feedback from your community that helps you write?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So I have a small army of beta readers that, get the chapters all in advance. And, I ask nothing of them. They give me all sorts of helpful feedback. They give me feedback, you've got a typo, for anything from you've got a typo here. I've got a bad habit of typing out instead of R, just because, the letters are right next to each other in the keyboard. And spell checker doesn't catch it because it's the right word. But my betas catch that all the time. All the way to, just last week, they were hitting me over the head and saying, Selkie, this chapter is absolutely terrible. Go redo it. And I was like, okay, I need to, take a break, get some mental health back, look at this chapter and, beat it into, see what I can salvage out of it, because they're right, it is pretty terrible. So, the feedback ranges from, minor to redo the thing, redo the plot, to I've had a couple of, absolutely great ideas. A few of them occasionally have some puns in there. If those of you have read book 4, the deodorant joke was from a beta reader. The Axe body spray joke was a beta reader.
Nice. Yeah, so a lot of values from beta readers. And so the second question to following that up was, do you think that, I did really want to talk about, Mango Media, because it's really exciting. And so do you think that the Discord community has helped you, like, give you the maybe idea or even confidence to launch Mango Media? And I guess I want to know more about what's in store for Mango Media. And we kind of touched on this in regards to you having to learn a lot of stuff from scratch and, helping authors through Mango Media. And I guess like what you would like to help authors with.
Mango, a lot of the Mango Media origin story has NDAs around it, so I can't talk terribly much about it. I can say, one of my initial thoughts was there's nobody in this space really advocating for authors. And I was actually initially thinking of going the agent route and, trying to represent authors to the various companies. And I was like, well, there's no real companies to advocate for. Instead of being the middleman, maybe I could just do it myself and try to make things better for, authors this way. see if I can give them better deals, more competitive deals, and, you know, go from there. And, you know, right now, my initial goal is to just become comfortable and established in the niche I want to be in, which is web serials, preferably of the progression fantasy subgenre, to Amazon, you know, section, that, you know, little corner of things. And, you know, I figure it's better to be an expert at one thing than to try to be a generalist with 1,000 things. Now, as time goes on, I'd like to expand my circle a little bit, but, you know, goal one, be really freaking good at this one thing.
Gotcha. Excuse me while I dive into a little bit of, I guess, general tips around, or I guess that, so is writing, for example, in the future for you, is that something you would like to pursue concurrently with running Mango Media? And do you, I know you've said you would like to write other stories in the world of Beneath the Dragon Eye Moons, and
so I'm juggling the two, and it helps that, you know, I started off saying I cannot do all of this by myself. Let me, you know, bring on a partner. I brought in a partner, Saboteur, who does a lot of the grunt work of the, you know, formatting books, getting them all straight in order and, you know, polished up and ready to go. He's the one that, you know, handles a lot of communication with editors and what have you. You know, he's the one that, you know, fights with the typesetters when they are like, we're going to delete the name and put it up here and just do other really wacky stuff. Where it's like, no, we already have the author name in the title. It's integrated in. Don't mess with it. He's the one doing a lot of that work while I, you know, have the knowledge, experience, and capital to, you know, get this started. And then I also know exactly how to thread the needle on a lot of stuff to, you know, give stuff the best chance for success. So yeah, I always see myself writing, and then depending on how Mango Media goes, you know, I've got more stories that I've, you know, started to brew in my mind. I might write them. I might go more full-time on Mango Media. We will see. And by full-time, of course, I mean, you know, the crazy hours that we all work.
Sure, yeah. And I have seen Saboteur on various author discords as well, just, you know, so like, you know, he's doing a great job and just networking and, you know, just supporting authors in their own way. So we have about 2 minutes here until we move on to the Q&A, just a heads up for the attendees. And I'm not a professional interviewer, you know, maybe someday I will be. So I apologize if I haven't touched on some of the questions that you guys have submitted, but that'll be the time where you guys can submit questions to the panelists. So I did want to save this question for last in case it got a little awkward. Oh, yeah, okay, there's a few questions that I haven't gotten to yet. Compliments to my non-professionalism as an interviewer. So maybe real quick, you in your AMA, which I recommend everyone to go check out, you mentioned that you wanted to write a story near creation, since none of the stories you've read seem to do that often. And then you say you discovered why no stories like going near creation. And I was wondering if you could expand on that a little bit.
The theme a lot of fantasy stories have is sort of, you know, discovering lost things, the lost city, the ancient magics, the, you know, blah, blah, blah. You cannot have any of those trappings if you're near creation. You are the ancient empire discovering all of this for the first time. There are no ancient buried ruins. There are no old magics to discover. There are no hidden horrors, you know, lurking, you know, sealed deep beneath the earth. There's been no time to do any of that stuff. So, you know, you lose the ability to make a lot of fun plot points like that by being too near to the starting gun. You know, you are still in the, you know, I didn't quite go this far. You're still discovering fire and, you know, figuring out what this building stuff is. And, you know, I had a character mention, you know, the discovery of shields and how, you know, the first 4 times they tried to, you know, invent shields, they failed. And the 5th time they figured it out. And, you know, but that becomes the primary focus of, you know, man versus nature with no little fun sprinkles you can put in. You can't, you know, be like, hey guys, they discovered a big dungeon, you know, over here. Let's all go raid it. And, you know, you can't write a story arc about that. That was, you know, sort of the main thing is you lose a lot of trappings like that. it is a little fun to write about the rise of the first empire, you know, the glorious empire that everyone refers back to throughout the ages. That's a little fun. And you do get the ability to do that as opposed to, you know, well, you're pretty good, but you're never going to be, you know, the Roman Empire, or, you know, you're never going to be Egypt or whatever, the civilizations that, you know, sort of people compare to the ancients. This is the rise of Rome. This is the rise of Egypt story. So, you know, you get some, you lose some. I think on the balance, you lose more than you get.
I see. Gotcha. Thank you so much for hopefully what was some food for thought for future authors if they ever listen to this panel. Thank you for your time. And now we have a few minutes. If the attendees would, we have 38 attendees, which is a lot more than we started with, which was 19, I think. So if the attendees would like to, oh, we already have a lot of questions Selkie's getting to. So we have a question from Kuiper. Question about Kindle Unlimited. Selkie, when you removed early books on Royal Road, did you notice a decrease in the number? Okay, that's answered. Did you notice a decrease in the number of people discovering or starting the series on RR? Yeah. So I can what I did last time was I edited these panels, posted them to YouTube, and then I linked an Excel sheet with all the Q&As. So if the attendees would like to check out all of these Q&As later, or the panelists, you guys can feel free to do so. It'll be all on an Excel sheet. So yeah, that's it for the first session. Would anybody like to take their time to ask a question in over voice? I believe I can allow to talk. You guys can feel free to raise your hands in the chat. We have a few minutes before our 5-minute break.
Hey, Molly.
Mars Murray. We have a question from Mars. I'm allowing Mars to talk. Hi, Mars.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, so I have written maybe 5 or 6 short stories, mostly for friends and family, but they all said they were pretty good and would like to see more. I just don't know where to start as far as getting that out there to an online audience. I'm very new to the web fiction scene, so any recommendations on how to get started or where to look for guidance?
I think that's a question, you know, if Selkie, if you'd like to jump in, and then if other panelists would like to add on their thoughts, that'd be great.
Sorry, can you repeat that real fast?
So Mars has written a few short stories. It's been well received by their family, and he would just like to know, he doesn't have he's new to this web fiction thing. He's just wondering where would be a good place to start and where he could learn more. And Mars, feel free to interrupt, by the way, if you...
Yeah, no, you got it. You nailed the question. That was it, really. Like I said, just wrote some stories, mostly for friends and family, and now they're just kind of sitting there, and I just feel like sharing them. I just don't know where to start.
So, So, I mean, you can always share on Royal Road. Royal Road will, if they're short stories, Royal Road will probably not reward them very heavily, because they just don't get the sort of engagement or have the sort of weight needed for Royal Road to particularly pick them up and run with them, so to speak. You can try, there's no reason not to, but, you know, I don't know much about short stories. I can't speak to them particularly well. It also depends what you're calling short.
Probably between 7 and 10 standard pages.
Yeah, I have... Raven might actually be able to answer that question much better than I do.
I feel like I should step in for that one. Yeah, I do know a little bit more about short stories and short form storytelling and all that. Royal Road might be a good place for it, but I wouldn't necessarily bet on it. You might have a bit more luck on places like Space Battle Sufficient Velocity or Archive of Our Own, websites that are more tailored to short form storytelling, where you can get a lot more direct interaction with readers, especially forum based sites like Space Battles. You'll if people read it, they'll be able to interact with you directly, and that interaction is very valuable, especially when you're starting off as a writer, because you need feedback. You mentioned that you showed it to your family, which is really cool. But if you have a loving family and you're lucky enough to have a good family, they're probably going to lie to you about whether or not the story is good or not, which is that's a bit mean, but it's true. You know, it's your first story, so you know you don't want to discourage someone. But when you're starting off, you want some good, solid feedback. You want some feedback, especially that pertains to which direction you want to work on, because if you're starting off, you might be a very good writer, even like even if it's your first story, you might be like talented, you've read a lot, you've been thinking about it for a long time. But even then, there's usually going to be some areas that you've just started off. Obviously, you're not going to be perfect in those specific areas, and you'll want to know which parts to start working on at the beginning of your writing career. So that might be a nice place to start off with. Just get that initial feedback, figure out, okay, this is what I can work on. This is how I can improve. And along with the feedback, there's usually people that are reading like shorter form stories. They're appreciative of that kind of work. There's also a couple of subreddits. I'm not as familiar with those that are very good for short form stories. So get your work out there. Don't be too afraid of criticism. It might hurt a little bit because criticism always does, but you have to learn to kind of, go with the blows a little bit and give yourself a chance to improve and work on it, and see if you actually like genuinely enjoy writing. And from there, see if you can make a hobby out of it. I'd say as long as you're having fun with it, there's no real loss.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. I'll probably do that. I appreciate your time.
All right. Have good luck.
And yeah, so if you would like to pop your question on the Q&A, I can follow up with some of these websites that were mentioned and subreddits. And so if you weren't like, taking notes, I can provide the websites for you. So looks like we have let's take a 2-minute break, and we'll be back with more from RavensDagger. So thank you all.